Fairly nice feature of the Solus Ultra is you can click on previous vehicles and you don't have to enter the VIN again or wait for it to auto-identify. Vehicle history, Hyundai Sonata, codes, P0130 O2 sensor circuit malfunction, bank 1, sensor 1. I was kind of looking at that at the beginning of this diagnosis, but then I noticed the mass airflow sensor problem. See what that oxygen sensor is showing on the data. So we select what we want to view. All of them are selected, so we deselect them. And then we scroll down through to looking for the oxygen sensor. Bank 1, sensor 1. Let's go ahead and look at banks 2 while we're here. And as a graphing feature of this scanner, it shows the minimum that has been displayed and the maximum that's been displayed. So despite the fact that it looks like it's going up and down, it really isn't. It's been between 0.4, well, it changed now, between 0.36 and 0.46 the whole time. I would assume this is a common zirconium type oxygen sensor that fluctuates and not a air-fuel ratio sensor. So we'll pull it in, do some testing, and see if it needs an oxygen sensor too. Probably does. Probably would be sufficient just to slap one on at this point, I think. But this car has been driven enough to be warm enough for the oxygen sensor to be working. Like I said, despite the fact that this has changed, whoa, it's dropping all the way to 0. I've got my light on here so we can see the thing. And there's our upstream O2. Has this funny ring around it. Looks like it'll make it hard to get out. And then the wire comes around. Downstream O2 kind of seems like it's soaked with oil. You can see that on the video. Zoom in some. Strange. Anyway, wire comes over here. There's this group right here. Assume one of those is the O2 sensor. I'll figure it out and we'll do some testing there. So we have our schematic for the oxygen sensors. And right there's the downstream. We're looking at the upstream. And that portion would be, this portion would be the heater and the yellow and orange wire, 4 and 3. This portion would be the sensor, red with green and black on pin 1 and 2. And follow the wires up. Goes to the next page of the schematic, but I'm sure it would just go to the computer. So we're not real concerned with the heater circuit. We'll make some checks on these 2 wires. See what happens. So I've tracked down, this one is our upstream O2. Don't see any problems with the connector there. Let me get a meter and we'll test these leads for voltage. Of course they got this taped up where we can't see the wire colors. We do have prong or pin location 1 and 2, but I don't see it marked in there. Okay, we'll open this up and see what it shows us. Took the cosmetic cover off and now I can see the wire colors. So let me go get a voltmeter and we'll make some checks there. Okay, I've got my meter, got her hooked to ground. Acupuncture probe on there, and we're dealing with the red wire and the green wire. Or actually it's green and black, but so I'm touching the red wire and it shows 0.3 volts. And over here on our scan tool, the oxygen sensor data shows 0.43 volts. So that pretty much tells us the wire's good. And the other one should be a ground. I'm not real concerned with the ground wire because it would, if the ground were broken, it would drive the signal high and our signal is low. So basically, if I remember correctly, when we had this car running, it showed about 4.3 volts. So it's as if this thing is unplugged all the time. Probably meaning it's a failed O2 sensor. But what I want to do is jump voltage to that to see that the scan tool reacts. It's a little scary to jump voltage to a computer because you don't know if it's going to fry it or not. In order to see that this computer can react to this, the test that Scanner Danner does is he licks his fingers and touches the wire, and you should see a reaction on the scan tool. And so I'm touching the positive terminal, touching the wire, and if you look at the voltmeter, it shows 4 volts. And if you look at the scan tool, it shows 1.3 volts. Now the reason for the discrepancy there is because the computer is only normally reading between 0 and 1 volt, so it isn't even set up to read voltage that high. But you could also use a test light for this, using the resistance of the bulb to protect your circuit. But I think this is safer, and I want to thank Scanner Danner for showing me that test. That's an excellent test. The other test would be to touch the ground with a test light hooked to positive, and it should light the test light. That would be an indication that the ground circuit is capable of carrying some current. To touch the ground with a test light hooked to battery positive, and it should light the test light, and that would indicate that the ground is good, capable of carrying a little bit of amperage, indicating a good ground. So that ground is good. Our computer reacts to when we jump voltage to it through our body, so that indicates it is a bad O2 sensor. We'll get an O2 sensor, install it, and show some more, take some more video when we're done there. We've got the new oxygen sensor here in this box here. Getting this thing out was kind of a pain. It has this shield looking thing on it. The new one didn't come with that. And we had to cut the wires in order to get a regular socket down in there. We have an oxygen sensor socket, but it's just too fat to go down inside there. So cutting the wires seems to be just fine. I think it'll be okay without this cup on it, because the new one don't have it, and I don't see any way of getting this thing off there easily. But we're in the process of installing it now. We'll show you what the scan tool data shows once we get it installed. On our Hyundai, we have cleared the codes and taken it for a test drive. Oxygen sensor's nice and warmed up, and our snap-on scanner is now showing a fluctuation of almost 1 volt down to very low voltage. So it's fluctuating like it should be. You can see that there on the graph. And the code has reoccurred. I think we were stuck at 0.43 before, and that right there is a fixed car. Thing runs real good. If you learned anything from this video, give me a like and subscribe. Put your questions down below, and visit my website at You're in my shot, Mariah.
Shot of.
Video.